Hello, this is Harry Payton. I am the host of Naomi's Son. This is Season 1, Episode 6. Season 1, Episode 6. Today's subject, My Guardian Angel. My Guardian Angel. A couple of nights ago, I watched Robin Roberts with Channel 7 Eyewitness News interview a great person, Miss Brittany Griner. Those who are familiar know she's a basketball player, but most recently she got detained in Russia, complicated circumstances, but she got detained and spent almost a year in a Russian jail. She told a very riveting story of her harrowing time there. It was not easy being in any jail, but being in a Russian jail where the rights of the prisoners are not like, where they have weights and all that stuff America gives them. Russia, a whole different thing. She talks about that. But what it did, aside from feeling for her, because she's such a dynamic person, I had the opportunity to meet her, and she is such a kindred spirit. I love Brittany Griner, and I just met her for a few minutes during a basketball game. But I'm going to share an experience I had. I was fortunate enough at the age of 17 to travel through many countries in Europe, and then the culmination of that trip was 1 month in the Soviet Union. That's what it was called when I went there in 1970. I was a precocious kid. It was a scholarship. They were, after the civil rights movement, they were trying to do things for urban youth like me. I was still living in the projects of the Scudder home. Again, my book has that whole scenario. Born in Harlem, raised in Newark, Scudder home projects. During that trip, we went to a different place. We went to Sweden. I love Sweden, land of the midnight sun. But I'll start at that point. I do not remember the exact destination after Sweden, but I do know that at some point we arrived in the country of Denmark. Prior to visiting this country, I knew nothing at all about it. We would have spent 3 days camping out in Denmark. During the days, we toured the country together as a group. During the tour, we were allowed to visit shops, to purchase souvenirs, etc. Turns out, Denmark is considered, or at least it was at the time, a sexually liberated country. Women walked around without bras and or panties under short skirts. And when they sat down, they didn't close their legs or cross their legs to hide their private parts. Once again, me and the others, our teenage eyes were wide open and happily taking in all this country had to offer. Don't judge us. This is from the book. We were normal teenage boys. In addition to the unexhibited female shops in Denmark displayed and sold openly X-rated books where nothing was censored. Each of us secretly purchased some of these books and hid them in our suitcases. This action would cost us dearly in our travels in the near future. At night, women in Denmark would be scantily clothed in front of building windows with red lights as backdrops. This was their way of advertising their availability. Turns out, this was a red light district where prostitution, sex clubs, sex shops, strip clubs, etc. were legal. Even if we wanted to partake, we were unable to because this area was miles from our camping ground. We were not allowed to travel from the camp without chaperones. I don't remember much about our visit to Belgium, Finland, or Czechoslovakia, but we did spend time in each of these locations. At this point, we were a month into our trip, which meant our next destination would be the Soviet Union, now simply called Russia. Do not remember whether it was Finland or Czechoslovakia, but we took a nighttime ferry to the Russian border, buses and all. Next stop, the Soviet Union. Our month-long journey to the previous destinations I mentioned was exciting and fun-filled. Remember, prior to that month, my experiences were mostly in Newark, New Jersey, and an occasional visit to Greenville, South Carolina during the summer to visit my father's relatives. With these experiences under my belt, I would have been content to end the trip and go back home. I and most of the other students were leery of the next leg of the trip, spending a whole month traveling through communist Soviet Union, enemy to the good old USA. After the nighttime ferry, we arrived at the Soviet border. We were advised by our chaperones to be on our best behavior. Needless to say, they did not have to explain why. Our buses pulled up to the gated border checkpoint. Probably for the first time in our journey, none of us talked or asked any questions. Our chaperones approached the border guards. We were then told to exit the buses and stand in a designated area. Though we had on outerwear, it was freezing. We dare not complain. Remember, I was born in Harlem and raised in Newark, New Jersey. Not a lot of things frightened me. I and my fellow students were scared, you-know-what-less, visibly shivering not only from the cold weather, probably more from our current situation. After we exited our vehicles, the armed Soviet guards did a thorough search of our two Volkswagen buses. Suddenly, one of the guards put items from their search into a large bag they were carrying and returned to the building next to the border area. Uh-oh, what did they find? Were we going to jail or worse? Were they going to shoot us? Remember, this was communist Soviet Union. As all this was happening, Carlton, my friend at the time, looked at me and I at him. Could it be they found our hidden stash of X-rated, very explicit and pornographic magazines we secretly purchased in Denmark? We had purchased 3 magazines each, and so had 2 other male students traveling with us. That meant 12 magazines, only hidden under our clothes in our respective suitcases. Here's the long story and short story of that. We found ourselves in a dangerous situation. We were on the Russian border. You know, like any border, the United States border, they check to make sure you're not doing anything wrong. We were on the Russian border. Then the light came on to say, uh-oh, maybe having those X-rated books wasn't such a good idea. After what seemed like forever, and we knew what we had in our bags. We knew one thing, we knew what we had in our bags. Our chaperones didn't know it. The women on the trip didn't know it, we knew it. Teenage boys with these X-rated books. The guards came, threw the luggage back on the Volkswagen buses, and said, "Good, get them." Oh, big sigh of relief. At least we would be going. Our chaperone said, "Get in the bus," hey, get on the bus, don't say nothing, get on. We got on the bus and we proceeded. The reason I share this is because as I look back on that, I could have ended up in a Russian jail for the rest of my life at age 17. If they had arrested us, nothing the United States could have did. I'm not Brittany Griner. They wouldn't have fought that hard. Russians have Americans over there right now. But there was a God-sent angel who looked out for us. I suspect the guards didn't report us because they took the books. Because in Russia, those kind of books hardly exist. They said if they report them, they got to give the books up. So they took the books and said, "Hey, thank God. Take the books. Going to buy you some more?" My guardian angel, in my opinion, is my dear mother, who departed the year before, 1969. She has been looking out for me ever since. Brittany's story resonated with me because I could have been in that same situation. When she talked about her experiences, they could have been my experiences. But God and my guardian angel saw fit. It didn't happen. To God be the glory. When I look back over my life and I think things over, I can truly say I've been blessed.